My name is Eric Chung. I'm the CEO of Business Growth and Exit Specialist. We are a boutique management consultancy firm in Sydney with 7 partners. So we are working with our clients and we grow, future-proof, and exit their business with the desired outcomes. I think today's seminar is quite pertinent to the current challenges. And the topic is new government, new economy, new challenges, how your business should adapt to meet and capitalize on the moment. We have 2 great presenters. We have Joseph and George. We also have a panel expert. We have Ronald Wilson, partner at CIP Accountants and Advisors, Milind Kulkarni, digital transformation leader at Smarta Information System, Martin Collins, principal at Collins Legal, Jason Chung, MLC Lawyers, Rami Georges, director Prime Loans, Pina Brandy, property strategy, PP Property, and of course the 2 presenters will join us in the panel discussion as well as myself. Martin actually lost his voice today, unfortunately, so he's still there and still can smile, which is good, but most probably he will not be able to participate in terms of answering your question. If you've got any question, just email us or contact us, more than happy to do so. So the people you see is basically we are the presenter and panelists, and the attendees at the moment, obviously you cannot see yourself on the screen, but I guess the main thing is you are there and we are where you are there, and this is really all for you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Joseph Essie. Joseph is an associate partner at Business Growth and Exit Specialist, and in the area of small business advisory and financial control. He actually sent me 10 pages of his resume, so I'm not too sure whether I should read all of them with his extensive experience. So just bear with me. I just share with you some of the pertinent information about Joseph. So Joseph is an MBA qualified advisor to the small business sector with over 15 years of hands-on experience driving the finance function in fast-growing private organization. And from his family's distribution company, where he was involved in all aspects of the needs and challenges of the business, through to management roles in companies such as Karuma Dove, PFD Food Services, and Nisbet Australia, he has established his credential as a person that can help companies to grow and achieve their goal. And the main thing is what differentiates Joseph to most business consultants is that the majority of his expertise has been acquired through working in the growing small businesses and with their owners and managers to overcome the unique challenges they face. So basically in the trenches there. And he's specializing in finance and commercial matters. His expertise and skills span broadly across operation, but with a focus in financial accounting and reporting and maintaining and advising on system control processes related to the finance function. So Joseph, all yours. And if you want to share your screen and all that, we are here ready for you.
All right, everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Yep, awesome. Okay. So firstly, thank you, Eric, and thank you for that introduction. I am Joseph Essie. I'm a associate partner at Business Growth and Exit Specialist with a focus on small business advisory and financial control. So it is certainly a challenging time to be running and starting a business, and Eric touched on this a little bit in his introduction, and I know my colleague George will dig more into this in his part of the presentation later on. But I want to start just by sharing with you some of the biggest challenges I'm seeing in the businesses I'm currently working with and the impacts of these. So from my end, these continue to be surging inflation, and on the back of that, rising costs, supply chain disruptions, and in particular issues recruiting and retaining reliable staff. Now these issues make it really difficult for growing businesses to remain profitable, as you can imagine, and to maintain high levels of service. So obviously, the strategies and solutions I'm going to be discussing today will be focusing on these issues in particular. Now, it obviously goes without saying that there's not a one-size-fits-all strategy for every business and every situation. So, but the beauty of business growth and exit specialists and our partners is we come at this with diverse experience. Our partners have been across many different businesses, industries, and economic climates. So we are able to tap into that experience, and we work collaboratively to come up with a right strategy for your business or for any business that meets the actual environment that they're operating in. As an example, let's take a sales strategy. So I'm going to make the case today for pursuing a profit margin-based sales strategy, while later my colleague George is going to look at where pursuing a market share as a strategy might be right for your business. Now, as I said, there's no universal strategy or solution for all businesses, and as we will explain, the strategy you pursue really needs to be based on your particular business and the external environment you're operating within. So, as has been well documented, the current environment has given us a marketplace for labour that is extremely tight, and even if you are fortunate enough to find the right person, it's increasingly costly. And these conditions obviously lend to the importance of really clearly understanding your business and your customers and the areas of your business that are most profitable. So if you can't get the labour to service your broader market, then it stands to reason that then the right strategy you should be pursuing is one where you understand the segments of your market that are most profitable, and then focus your sales, marketing, and operational efforts towards those opportunities. Now, the key to this, and it's something I do with my clients, is setting up your accounting system and chart of accounts to capture and report your financial information in a real targeted, deliberate, and efficient way. So, for example, this could mean making sure that your sales and cost of goods sold reporting is broken up by your main product and service, so you know what you're actually selling and what profit you're making by the different categories within your business. Ultimately, having an accurate understanding of your profitability will help you to make the decisive action you need to achieve the kind of sales growth that we all want, which is profitable sales growth. The next thing I want to discuss is the importance of establishing a robust financial roadmap for your business. So a financial roadmap is more than just a budget. It establishes your business's current financial position, and sets performance goals, and then helps you come up with the actions you need to take to achieve those goals. So in uncertain times, a financial roadmap is critical to running a successful business, and a benchmark, and for it to be truly effective, it needs to serve as a benchmark for your strategy and business performance, and you need to continually assess your actual performance against your financial roadmap. So what I want to say here is the way I look at it is running a business in this environment without a financial roadmap. It's like driving a car in a foreign city without any directions. Sure, you may reach the destination, but it's going to cost you a lot of unnecessary time and money in the process. And overall, for this to be truly effective, you should be allocating time each month to analyze your performance relative to your roadmap, and then actually taking action accordingly. I can tell you without a financial roadmap, you probably won't need too much time to analyze your business, because ultimately you don't have really anything to truly gauge what your goals are, and then whether you are actually on track to achieving these. The next thing I want to talk about is using data within your organization and turning that into useful information. So there's been a lot of talk in recent years about how you can use your organization's data. It's become a buzzword. There are dedicated roles and businesses set up focused on using data in your business. What I want to focus on today is just some simple and yet practical things that you can do to turn the data that already exists in your business into useful information that can then help you make better decisions. So firstly, it is really important to have reliable information technology to support your business or your strategy and your operations. As a minimum, I recommend you should have a good operating system, a cloud-based accounting solution, and a good customer relationship management tool. And just on a side note, if any of our attendees have a question on CRMs and their value, I'm sure Melinda, who is one of our panelists and an expert in this space, can handily answer these later on. I myself have also helped a number of businesses implement new operating and accounting systems. And while there is obvious advantages to this in terms of better security and more efficient data processing, the real game changer here for your business is the level of business insights that are readily available, which then helps, I know with my clients, it's helped them make more timely and informed decisions. So just continuing on that theme, one of the most impactful areas where you can use data for better decision-making is getting a greater visibility of your costs and spending. And in an inflationary period in particular, visibility of spending by cost category, business process, business unit, it's critical. It not only enables the right level of accountability for your business, but it also ensures that you're actually making decisions knowing the full impact on your profit and loss. The other thing to remember here is that you really need to take action with this information. While some cost increases are unavoidable in this environment, it's important not to get caught in the trap of just accepting, inflation, costs are going up, so that's just business as usual. You must challenge your suppliers. You need to still seek alternatives and cost comparisons, and you need to review spend and make sure that it's still necessary and continues to provide you value. Some of my clients are actually, even in this environment, are still seeing cost savings, and they're avoiding cost increases, and they're doing this by pushing and challenging their suppliers and really thinking about how they can do things more cost effectively. So to bring to life what I've just spoken about, and that is, the value of your understanding your profit margins, having a financial roadmap, and using data to make better decisions. I'm just going to share with you this example from a real client of mine, which of course I share with their permission. This is a dashboard summary which I prepare for them on a monthly basis, the information comes from their accounting system. And on a monthly basis, in usually less than a page, they're able to get the key insights into their performance versus their budget, their sales and margin by product category, and other key financial indicators, including their cash flow performance. So the reason they're able to do this is because they have a financial roadmap, and their accounts are set up to track the financial information the way they want it to. So it's really easy for me and for them to get these insights on their business out of the system, and then they can take that away, and they take that away and make the improvements needed to help them reach their goals. The next thing I want to talk about is the value that can be gained in making yourself an easy and attractive business to work with. So obviously with labor so scarce and unreliable supply chains, competition for business and talent is extremely fierce. So a valuable solution here is to actually make your business attractive to transact with and easy to transact with, and ideally to do this with more than just monetary incentives. So one way to do this is by understanding the values and motivations of your customer base and potential employees, and then creating a visible culture that actively supports these values. Now, as a business and sales coach, my colleague George this is something he's very good at, but I can talk to the financial benefit of this, which obviously cannot be discounted. Obviously, money is going to play an important part no matter what, but if you can make price and salary as the reason people want to do business with you, then the less expensive it's going to become to retain customers and employees. And obviously then the much better it's going to be for your bottom line. The last point I want to make on this, and that is the importance of building strong relationships within your business. Sure, absolutely. As a CFO, I'll tell you rules are important, but rules without relationships really usually leads to rebellion. And a good example of this, I see as a CFO, is enforcing payment terms and collecting money from your customers. Sure, you have to have the terms that you enforce, but these are much more effective if you have your accounts team who has a good rapport with your customers, and there is a strong relationship for you to leverage off. I've helped many businesses get paid sooner and minimize their bad debt. And a key part of this is training them and their team into developing good relationships as part of their debt collection efforts. The last thing I want to talk about, and I know George will cover more on this later, is mindset, and specifically the need to think strategically about the environment that you're in and the present environment, and how you can actually look to capitalize on this rather than just mitigate the impacts. So take inflationary pressures as an example. A lot of small businesses, and this is in my experience, but it's also well documented, they're more likely to underprice in relation to the value their customers derive of their product or service rather than overprice. This is usually done in an effort to gain market share. Now, the problem with that obviously is if it's persistent, underpricing can then wrongly define in a lot of cases your product or service's value to the customer. However, uncertainty around inflation, which is the current present environment, and when you combine that with customer expectations that they might actually need to pay more, that provides an opportunity to change this and position your offering at a higher price, more in line with the market. Now, a bit of a caveat here, this is only going to work effectively if you actually do have a history of underpricing. So it's important that you have a knowledge of prices relative to the market. It's also a great time right now to assess your operations and whether each activity in your operations can be improved, particularly relative to the cost and time that is involved. And in the context of a scarce labor market, this may even reveal the need to outsource or eliminate the activity within your operations. For example, I recently had a client who got us to review the final leg of their offering, which was the installation and delivery of their product. We did a cost-benefit analysis, and what we determined was the risk and costs involved in that relative to the value that it provides their clients, really was not worth them continuing to do that. And so a decision was made to outsource. Now, what's important to probably understand here in both of those opportunities is that you need to have a good grasp of your numbers, and you need to have the skills to value each opportunity. Now, if you don't have someone in your organization that has those skills and that can do that, and you don't have an accountant who can help you with that, then my recommendation is you need to get someone in your business that can help you with that. And whether that's an upgrade to an accountant who does have those skills, and we have a really good accountant in our panel today, Renelle from CIB Accountants, who is of that caliber, or utilizing someone like myself who can help with that. So that covers everything that I wanted to today. Thanks, Eric. I'll pass it back to you, you can introduce our next panelist, George. Thanks a lot for listening to me.
Eric, you're on mute.
Yeah, one of the most used words. You're on mute. Thanks, Joseph, for your presentation. That was great. I think there are a few good takeouts there that we will discuss further. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the second speaker, George. I don't know where to start because I know George for a long, long time. There are so many war stories George and I shared. I guess what he told me in terms of introducing him today, keep it simple. So here I go. So George is the associate partner at Business Growth and Exit Specialist in sales, marketing, and intellectual property. And he has been in sales, marketing, and distribution, including product procurement, for over 30 years. He was instrumental in the launch of significant growth successes for companies like Artline Marking Pens, WD-40, Armor All, Alcan Aluminium, and Barilla Pasta and Spaghetti. He has also sold to majors in most areas of the marketplace, be it grocery, confectionery, hardware, pharmaceutical, or government. So he has assisted many companies, I think over 400 of them, in sales, marketing, and business development, providing strategies targeted at identified problems and changing the mindset of both staff and management to allow them to benefit rather than suffer from situations that they were faced with. He is also the author of Never Fear a Salesman Again and Never Fear a Business Decision Again. George, all yours.
I'm glad I asked you to keep it simple. Okay, let's see if I get this right. And just move that out of my way there. Okay, so we're talking about new government, new economy, new challenges. And what can you or what should you do about that? So what is it all about? So we've got a new government, and generally speaking, whether it's state or federal, a new government wants to come in and make their mark. And that'll cause some of the people that you're dealing with, be it in your private or business life, to be far more positive. And on other occasions, it'll make people feel negative. Just in the last few weeks, we've seen China. There's been a different approach from them, although they seem to be going back to belting us with a stick because they thought the carrot was going to work better than it did. We've just heard that the Labor government's going to wind back the building code board. And that's going to be a very interesting exercise because we've now had the commissioner resign from that, saying with the rollback, he doesn't see that he can do his job. And that's going to impact on all sorts of things. It's going to impact on confidence from people buying units because they're going to be thinking about all those buildings that went bad, now we're going to go back to that, et cetera, et cetera. This government's approach to COVID versus the previous. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, it's just a different approach. So what are the impacts of all of this? Then we come to the new economy. What is the new economy? Well, we've got a higher inflation than was predicted. We've got interest rates that many people have never seen before. Now, I've got people that are talking to me and they're concerned about it could get to 5 or 6%. With this grey hair, you probably would understand. I saw it when it was 17 and 18%. I was actually borrowing money for businesses at 21% higher risk, but we were actually getting a 24% return. So we didn't care about the 21 because it was safe and we were getting 24. But a lot of people today never even saw 10%. So what's that going to do? And the boom and bust impacts of interest rates and escalating price costs. We've already seen a number of builders that weren't set up correctly, that didn't have a good strategy, in trouble. We've seen people panicking about their mortgages and that. Generally speaking, the people that are in trouble from increasing costs and all of that All that means is you overextended yourself at the beginning. And then we've got the Great Resignation. I went and did some research. I don't know how that managed to do that. The Great Resignation is still running at about 2.9% as late as June figures. We've also, as the new economy, got the work from home versus the work from office. And all of that leads to new challenges. Buyer confidence being tested, costs increasing, finance harder to get. So those increased interest rates, what you could borrow for business, you can't borrow now because your borrowing capacity is being impacted. If you're using your house as your finance guarantor or guarantee, that's suddenly changed. And then we come to staff. Staff recruiting, retaining, management, and more importantly than ever before, training. Now, I was in a company years ago, and through a chain of events, I left. And just before I left, I was having a discussion, a heated one, with the chairman of the board, and I'd left and about 10 people came with me. And he said to me, your biggest problem is you get too close to your staff, you care too much about them, and you're too emotional about your staff. I really wished I knew how I'm doing that. Two weeks after I left, 5 people resigned, and the rest of the staff, 20 people, got together with management and demanded a pay rise or they were going. And they were asked the question, how come we never heard about any of this when George was here? And they said, because we used to work with George Mavros. Now we're just part of the system and we work for you. So was I really too close? What's your staff thinking about the way you handle things? But it's not just your staff. Do your customers actually think you care? Do your suppliers think you care? Because if they think you care and you're fair income and you're doing it a bit tough, they'll extend some terms. But if you've treated them like rubbish, you don't bother to talk to them, you're probably not going to get much feedback from them that's going to be on a positive thing. So Joseph spoke about relationships, and it is critically important that the relationships within the business, with your customers, with your suppliers, with your finances, you must be doing things about that. And if you're not sure how to do it, then you need to get somebody that can help you with that. You need to get advice. You need to get people that have been through stuff that you haven't been through that can help you manage it better. You need to develop hybrid and remote management and training styles. We spent years and years trying to get businesses away from information silos. And with what we've got going on at the moment, we could easily go back to that. And one of the things I talk about is we've lost the coffee machine education. And what I mean by that is when I was growing up in sales and marketing and that, yes, we'd have our sales meeting, we'd have our business meetings and that. And then we'd be over at the coffee machine and I'd ask the more experienced person, what did he mean by that? What was that supposed to be? How do I do that? Your young people, your inexperienced people, if they're working more remotely, how are you covering up for the coffee machine education? What's replacing that lunchroom chatter? Numbers of my clients, I've suggested to them, if you're having Zoom meetings, you need to give 10 or 15 minutes on top of the meeting just for people to be able to chat. The other thing is that Joseph spoke about a roadmap and how important your plan is, and it's like a roadmap. So I'm going to continue on with that analogy, and it's one that he's heard me use just recently. Hopefully, not one of you would get in a car that doesn't have a steering wheel. You wouldn't get on a bike without a set of handlebars. So if you're on the road, you've got the roadmap, but you don't understand your business, you've not communicated with your clients, how do you adjust to the little kinks in the road? Or do you just keep going until you fall off the edge? So roadmaps are important, but understanding how to drive your vehicle is just as important, and in some cases, more important. There was a recent LinkedIn report that came out. 81% of executives are changing their environment, their workplace environment, to be far more flexible than they ever had before because of the new economy and because of the impact. 25% of LinkedIn members' skills for the same occupation changed 25% from 2015 to 2021, and it's expected to change by a further 40% by 2025. So all the people that you're working with, all the people that you're selling to, all the people that are supplying to you, they're going to be suffering some of this. And plus 25% globally role changing in October 2021 to 2019 comparison. And they believe it's going to get a whole lot more. So Joseph spoke to you about the importance of margin versus market share. I want to give you a couple of quick stories about marking pens. I was the managing director of Artline in New South Wales back in the 80s. And for those of us that were around then, even though Eric's got black hair, he was around then, I promise you. Everybody was running around and worrying because we had interest rates up and we were doing this. Our company was an exceptionally profitable company. And I said to my sales team, I will forego profit. I won't run at a loss, but I will forego profit if I can get market share. So we put a lot of money into Artline marking pen stands. And you could just about walk into any newsagent, any stationery shop, anyone that sold a range of marking pens, we had an Artline stand in there. And it was a great big floor stand. And we put the product in. We didn't slaughter the price, but we certainly reduced our prices to get that stand in. When the market turned and people started to open up, our sales increased by some 10% in the next year. In the 90s, we had a situation where a couple of companies came out and they were advertising that they were 40% less than Artline. Three of my major opposition, so we're in the elite band, we're the premium product. This company was down the bottom end and their advertising was 40% cheaper than Artline, Pentel or Textar. Pentel or Textar actually reduced their prices to try and compete with them. We went to the marketplace and we said, we can't do that. We've got a premium product at a premium price because it is the best. We actually stole 10% of the market off Pentel and Textar because we maintained our profit margin, we sold on our value. But if you don't know who you are, how do you think your clients will ever recognize you? So a little bit on mindset. The hands can only create what the mind can see. Each one of these people had a vision, and because they could see that, they then created it. John F. Kennedy got us to the moon. I see a man landing on the moon by the end of the decade, and somebody else's hands created NASA and the rockets. Nelson Mandela, he had a vision. He didn't worry about the challenges. He looked for the opportunities. And that's what they worked with. One of my clients was just recently offered a situation, and he said, I can't see how to do it. And he said, so I haven't done it for 3 or 4 weeks now. We sat down in 20 minutes on this lovely whiteboard behind me, knocked up an idea. He's now secured an $800 a job, $800 a day job for the next 5 weeks. That's what it's about. Understanding that if you don't see it, you won't create it. If you want to sit there and worry about all the challenges, you will not see the opportunities. You know, if you have the courage to fail, you're automatically entitled to the right to succeed. Does it mean that you're guaranteed success? No. But if you don't even have the courage to fail at it, you will never, ever attempt it. If you don't attempt it, how can you possibly succeed? Richard Branson has had some failures, that he picks himself up and he dusts himself off and goes again. And Martin Luther King, he certainly has the courage to fail because he knew what he was risking, but look what he achieved for mankind. You know, the art of the sell is not what you are selling. It's the way you deliver it. If you don't have the vision, you can't possibly deliver it in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was a great presentation. Certainly several good takeouts there that we can discuss during our panel session. So what I would like to do is open it up to Q&A to the presenters, if we have any. If you don't mind, let me share my screen there. Okay. Now, for our attendees, if you have any question, down the bottom there, fourth one from your left is a Q&A. So you can type in your question there to the presenters, and we can pass it on and they can answer that. And the same as the paneling session, which is going to happen in a few minutes, you can put some question there. And I'm pretty sure all of us will be happy to answer. I actually have a couple of questions here. The first one is about, like, most businesses are being impacted by rising costs and the uncertainty in the economy right now, which both of you already touched upon. So one of the questions is, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages small businesses have in managing this as compared to a large business or an institution? So who would like to answer that question? Joseph, you want to get cracking at that?
Yeah, I'm happy to give some thoughts on that. I guess firstly, what I said, like I said in my presentation, a lot of small businesses tend to compete on price. So this might be a good time for them to move away from that, and without as much backlash as there would normally be. But also small businesses have the advantage over larger businesses of being nimble and having less bureaucracy. So, and when you think of that in the context of things moving quickly, it's easier for them to make quick decisions and to implement. And that's something they have over larger businesses, and that can be really powerful in the current climate that we're in, when things are moving really fast, interest rates are going up fast, costs are going up fast, and asset values are going everywhere. The flip side to that, of course, is they're traditionally not as good and not as close to their data and their information that larger businesses are. So it's harder for them to make fully informed decisions as quickly as a larger business that might have a team dedicated sort of, crunching numbers and giving them, instant information at hand. But as I said in my presentation, that's where, getting some good cost-effective technology comes into play, and having a good way of getting that information out of your system. And, the other thing is a lot of small businesses, and particularly new business, don't have the cash reserves to sustain some of the worst impacts of the economic downturn. And again, that is where things like cost and margin visibility really come into play. You need to be right on the ball there. And I know George Mavros is quite fond of saying, quite rightly, that you need to be selling the right product at the right time to the right people at the right price.
Good on you, Joseph.
and that sort of information really help you to be able to do that.
Yes, thanks for sharing your thought. Make a lot of sense. What about you, George?
I think small businesses can be far more nimble, but as Joseph was saying, I sit and watch the television sometimes, and XYZ, which is a publicly listed company, or Qantas, $40 million loss this year. Like, no small business can handle a $40,000 loss easily, let alone a $40 million. So they don't have that resilience, and they don't usually have that big war chest. But what they do have is the ability to work with people on a personal basis. And the importance for small businesses is to get the team that works for them. So as my fellow panelists know, Rami is my finance guy. And the reason for that is Rami does a total finance offering. So whether it's your private, your business, or your personal loans, he can do everything. For a small business, that's ideal because you've got one person that talks to you. You walk into Westpac and they're not going to, you get this bloke to do the banking here and that one to do a loan over there, and then you want a house loan, that's a different division to the business loan and all of that. So on the financing side of it, Rami can help a small business far better than they're going to get if they're going to big corporations. So it's about understanding your market, it's about understanding your customer, and it's about talking to your customers and everybody. I'm not that big guy. You got to help me. I'm small like you. And I used to do that when I was running Artline, and we were $32 million a year, but we were still smaller than somebody.
Yes, that's certainly interesting. We have a question from Joe Daly here. The question is, are there any facets of small businesses in general that would be considered quick but long-term win for them to start prospering? So Joseph and George, any one of you want to answer to the question?
I think Jason jumped in to say he would have liked to have a crack at that. So how about we see what he's got to say first?
So I clicked that to say that we would answer that live, but seeing as I have the invitation, I'll my 2 cents in. In regards to a quick win, I think, looking at what you have access to and wearing, the 2 hats that I generally wear, I work in a legal capacity and then also a digital strategy capacity. And also coming from a sales and marketing background, I think, what you have at your disposal are your people, the way you deal with your clients and your customers, may it be in a digital capacity or a face-to-face capacity. If you look after your customers and your clients well, that will resonate through your business and through your customers. So it could be touch points through your digital streams. So it could be, your social media, it could be your digital advertising, and having a clear understanding and clear picture of what you're doing right now, what you're doing well, what you're looking for for new business, but then also having that resonate through your interactions on a day-to-day basis. If it's all aligned well, what you'll find is that, you know, that's a really good quick win, right? Because, you know, if your staff know that, look, we are focusing on this is where we're profitable, this is what we're loving to do right now, and this is how we can best help our customers. And then that is mirrored on all other aspects of your businesses, digital, face-to-face, and otherwise. It all comes together nicely, and then your customers and clients will know what you want and know what you're wanting to do to help. So, you know, that's probably, you know, my 2 cents in regards to what I would see as a quick win. George, over to you.
Yeah, when Joseph and I were putting this together, Eric, one of the things we started to do is we started to talk about, well, how would you do this and what would we do? Because quite often Joseph and I can work together. We can both be consultants, we can both be advisors. He's coming at it heavier from the financial side of it. I'm coming at it heavier from the sales marketing, but we certainly interact well. And one of the things that we came up with is the first thing that you need to do is a full review of your company. So in answer to the question, if you haven't done it for a while, now's a damn good time to do a full review of your company to find out all the bits and pieces that need to be addressed. Because whether this is a bad time, good time, challenge or not, that will benefit you for the next few years. A lot of businesses have not reviewed their company properly for a long, long time. If you have a look at the business now, you may say, well, not only will I do that for now, but I'm going to change this and change that for next year and the year after.
100%. So we are going to open it for panel discussion soon. Joseph, you want to make some comment regarding that question before we jump into panel discussion?
Yeah, just a quick comment. From my perspective, what I see is a potential quick win, and I touched a little bit on this in my presentation, and Jason and George both sort of spoke about this as well. But you know, in terms of understanding your business, understanding the parts of your business that are profitable, and going through and refocusing your efforts. So while that might not deliver a quick win necessarily in terms of dollars straight away into your bank, you know, it may allow you to say, okay, this is going to save me some time, because I'm not focusing on people that are not giving me good returns. Time is just as important as money, particularly in the long term, if you can then refocus that time into business that's going to be better for you long term, and focus your efforts towards that. So for me, that's a big one, and that's something that I do with my clients on a yearly basis.
Very good. All right, let me share this screen, just sharing the okay. So as all of you can see, during this panel session, we have 2 presenters with us. We have Ronell Wilson, partner at CIP Accountant and Advisor. We have Milind Kulkarni, Digital Transformation Leader at Smarter Information System. We have Martin Collins, Principal at Collins Legal. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, he lost his voice. So if you've got any question to him, he might answer it through email. Jason Chung from MLC Lawyers, Rami Georges, Director, Prime Loan, and of course, Pina Brandy, Property Strategy, PP Property, and myself there. So I guess as a business strategist, the way I see it, like quite a bit of takeout from the presentation, that everything point toward you need to adapt and flourish. Okay, as simple as that. So if you think about it, like, you know, we got much more complex environment, like George and Joseph mentioned. We got few new challenges in the mix. And you think about it, like George said, unless you review your, you know, company direction in terms of your business strategy and your business model, how would you expect to perform and sustain your business without changing anything? Because with change, you need to adapt. Unless you adapt, you basically will perish. So I think one of the key takeout I would say is that doesn't matter what business you are in, now is the right time to review your business roadmap, that is your business strategy and your business model. And come with that, obviously, you need to understand what is the financial impact. That's what Joseph is mentioning, talking about, you know, show me the money part, all right? You got to understand, what sort of revenue are you going to focus on? Focus on the area that is profitable and have opportunity. You've got to manage the cost, and then obviously know that your cash flow is going to be all right. And then, in the mix there, as George said, the main thing is your mindset. You got to have a positive mindset. Everything, there is a silver lining. We've got a lot of challenges. If you say it's all too hard, you must as well close your door, because you're not going to win. You're not going to go anywhere. You're basically, going to disappear. So I think the other key takeout that I can see is, George actually talking about, you need to have a certain vision and see the opportunities out there and focus on your value proposition. Joseph talked about pricing. What people focusing on is not the price, it's really the value you are going to give them. So the simple equation of value is the benefit you are going to give to your customer versus the cost. So as long as the benefit outweigh the cost and better than your competitors, right? Your value is higher anyway. So we are not talking about cost here, right? Which is quite interesting. So that is most probably to start with just some comment that I would like to share with you and some of the key takeout, and a few more. I actually got a series of questions for the panelists here. So if I can start with that, that would be fantastic. Okay. It's quite interesting. If you have a look on the television day in, day out, you're talking about interest rate, you're talking about, property. Some people fear missing out. Some people fear that, okay, look, they cannot afford it or whatever. Excuse me. So the question is, how important is it to have professional advice and guidance, especially to overcome fear in property investment with the current climate? So Pina, would you like to share with us what is your thought there?
Sure. Thank you, Eric. I would say that just like George said and Joseph said, mindset is the most important, but it's not your own mindset. And then sometimes, even though you try to stay positive and you try to have the right mindset, nothing like a professional to show you, give you comparisons and to give you confidence, just like George said, it's about the delivery. And the way you deliver that information to the client might just give them the courage to move, or you can deal with what's stopping them and see what the real issue is. Because most of the time, whatever they're afraid of, it's only in their mind. It doesn't exist.
100%. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Well, I guess we must have jump into finance, and what do you think finance solution that can be taken in order to prepare and adapt to new challenges faced in the current economy? I think Rami, with your background experience there, maybe you can share with us your thought.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Eric. Joseph, George, unbelievable presentation. I took so much out of that. I've got pages of notes that I wrote from presentation, so great job. Yeah, look, there are so much that people can do to keep themselves, not only alive during this current economy and inflation, but actually flourish. A lot of people kind of feel like, oh, as a small business owner, what's the point? I might as well pack up and whatnot. But no, this is the time where a lot of businesses can kind of adapt and utilize where others are fearing in the market and others are slowing down their businesses. This is where they can actually stand out. Regarding businesses, there are so many solutions that can be done. Obviously, in regards to business itself, a number of types of business loans that can be obtained. One is a line of credit. Line of credit is pretty much amount of money that sits that you've been approved for. You can tap into that. Let's say it's $50,000. You need $2,000 to pay a bill. You pay it, you get the money, you put it back in to pay it off. It's literally an open bank for you to take and use in the business. Obviously, people have to pay wages and staff and all that kind of stuff. So that there is definitely money available to those business owners. But not only that, I think it's very important to review your current loans and current financial solutions that you already have in the business. People think that, they've been comfortable, they've been paying a certain business loan, they're happy with it, but they don't know what the current lenders and rates are in the market under business loans. Now, people think automatically because interest rates have risen for home loans that it's the same case for everything. It's not the case. Business loans generally have been similar interest rates than they were previously. So it's definitely a solution for that would definitely be review kind of current financials and look at where you can kind of obtain funds to help the business in areas that it may need help in. And finally, something that you kind of mentioned, Eric, it's about the cost. People are very heavily focused on costs. At the end of the day, as a business owner, you need to kind of say cost versus solution. Now, am I going to sit there and say, oh, the cost doesn't suit me, I'm not going to go for it? Or a business owner, especially new business owners, going to sit there and say, you know what, the cost may not be what I exactly want, but the solution's there. And to touch on what George said earlier about Artline, I think he said it was a 21%, but the return was 24%. Exact same thing here. If the rate's going to be at 20%, but your business grows by 40 or 50%, then really who's the true winner from that solution? So yeah.
100%, 100%. I have an interesting question here. I think virtually all businesses would like to know this. Have there been any announcement of government support or income tax relief from the new government as a result of the economic pressures? I think Ronelle, I think you are in the prime position to answer this.
We haven't seen anything from the new government yet in terms of business support. It might be on the cards, but we haven't actually seen anything yet. With the new government, you usually get a bit of a refresh and an update on the budget sort of a couple of months into the term. Right. So we're still waiting for that. On the individual level, there's an extra offset called a cost of living offset for incomes up to 126K. There's an extra $420 offset. So that will give people a little less income tax to pay or a higher refund. But not so much. I think the government sort of thinking that there was a lot of assistance given out during 20 and 21 in terms of COVID relief. The landscape's a little different now. So we've got a big debt there. We're seeing ATO activity in terms of wanting to collect debts. So the ATO is being quite generous, but at the same time being quite strong in terms of wanting debts to be collected and payment arrangements. So a little harder to get at the moment. If a business is in a bit of trouble in terms of making repayments to the ATO for income tax and GST amounts, etc., the message there is early engagement with the ATO. And sort that out sooner rather than later. Don't sort of let it build up to a point where it becomes really onerous and stressful. Early engage with the ATO and you're likely to get some relief in that way. We're seeing that insolvency activity is increasing now that those government subsidies are no longer available, the cash boost and JobKeeper, Saver and those various things. So yeah, more so than in 2020 and 21. So there's definitely a lot of pressure out there in the marketplace. I think, all of the points that, the panel and the webinars raised so far have been fantastic. What I would add to that is, I think risk minimisation is really important also for business owners in terms of financial risk, supply chain risk, looking at sources of products, looking at sources of talent, and that sort of thing, just to make sure that all the key areas in your business are looked at and there's no personal risk additional for any sort of failures in terms of insolvency or, financial pressures. Look at your budgeting and future performance and see where the areas are that might cause great concern so that you can remain profitable.
Yeah. Good point. Good points. I think, Joseph, in your presentation, specifically, you mentioned about, you need to leverage on technology, talking about accounting system and CRM. And Milin, how do you think the information technology, like CRM, can help to capitalize on the current moment?
Yeah, so basically right now, as you know, and we have touched on it a lot in today's session, there is less people in the market. It's hard to get new staff into it. And during that time, like making use of information technology is really, really useful, because not necessarily everybody has to come to your office to work, and they can work from home. The technology is there where you can make use of it. And I remember like during the COVID time when all the lockdown happened, and one of my client, because that time a lot of grants, like as Ronald mentioned, a lot of grants was going out, and one of the grant was for the Queensland particular council area. And one of my client actually, he wanted to know, hey, I got a database and I want to send an email to them saying that I can help you to get those grants. And he just picked up in a 2 weeks time, he picked up 5 different new clients, which earlier he never worked on. So what is happening is, and Joseph have talked about it, once you have got the data in your system, and if you can make use of it, it is a really, really good time right now where you can grow your business, making use of the information technology.
Yes, make a lot of sense. I think the next question, I think this is addressed to Jason and Martin. Unfortunately, I think Martin lost his voice. So Jason, you might have to chime in here. So what are some of the legal challenges businesses are facing with the current climate?
So as Ronel mentioned, I think some of my clients and our clients have been experiencing some financial pressures due to the reduction of the government support and financial support that the government has had. The market as a whole has impacted some businesses. So businesses are looking at new leases and new agreements with other stakeholders and being very cautious in the way they enter into these agreements too. So they're taking these things into consideration when making decisions at the moment. And I think it's good to manage risk, like Ronel said. Being a business owner and running a business, you can generally feel the quick impacts of the market and what is happening. So carrying that into your business decisions and legal decisions is quite important. Like on a lighter note, what we have noticed is an increase in migration work and an increase in new applications across the board for immigration. So touching on, the human resource challenges that businesses are facing across the board, the good thing is there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. With the borders opening and with more migration happening, we'll find, I hope, additional resources for businesses to tap into. So we've had an increase in our business also of new businesses and businesses that have previously sponsored people from overseas to fill gaps in their employment requirements. And this is now flowing through, applications are going through. So I think we will see, a greater access to people, which we all can really need and can use. So, looking at risk and then looking at maybe an increase of potential employees or utilizing overseas employees to fill the gaps that you may have in your business are things that you can consider right now from a legal perspective that can potentially, plug some holes and potentially avoid you having holes within your business.
Absolutely, good comment. I think Martin made some comment there. George, would you kindly speak on his behalf, sort of things?
I think from Martin's perspective, now more than ever before, it's important to have contracts in place. It's important to have documented evidence of discussions and partnerships and all those sorts of things, because when things are tough and people start to get hammered a bit for the money, suddenly morals and ethics drift the opposite direction. And so what happens is, as the bank account goes down, people's ethics can go down. So Martin's advice to people is to make sure that the contracts are in place and you have a clear understanding of who's doing what and who's responsible for what. I think that sort of covers it, Martin.
Very good. Well done. See, we always have solution, you know, being creative, always a solution. Well done. So, George, after hearing the Joseph presentation, which you have responded to a certain extent, and the current discussion here, like, what come to mind in terms of like 3 key point businesses should think about, you know, under current circumstances to, number 1, sustain their business. Without sustainable business, there is no business. Number 2, having a look at the potential opportunities and actually growing the business. Can you comment on those?
So, number 1, it is imperative that you know where you are. Because if you don't know where you are at the moment, you have no hope of working out where you're going to head. And one of the delights in working on this joint presentation with Joseph was for us to be able to discuss the importance of mindset, but the importance of financial mindset and financial planning. So, number 1, you must have a good idea of where you are. Where's your weak spots? Where's your strong spots? Can you sustain a profitable approach only, or can you go for market share? And then to move forward, it comes back to, if you, I said, I was somewhere else this morning and I was talking about planning for today is actually panicking. Planning for tomorrow today is sort of a plan. But planning for tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, that's strategy. And that's what people need. People need to develop a strategy. It's not just, oh, well, something will happen tomorrow and I'll work that out. That's not good enough. So my takeout is know exactly where you are, do that review of your company. And if you don't know how to do it, get somebody in that does, and then form your strategy as to where we're going the next few months. If this happens, what are we going to do? If that happens, what are we going to do? And go from there.
100%. I always believe, and my advice to any of my connection and client is always spend your time doing the thinking, and then the planning, and then the execution. When you do that, you know, you'll be 20 times faster than trial and error. It might work, might not work. So, I mean, you're talking about now is the right time virtually, you know, review your whole business and all area. Is good, because I am in total agreement as business strategists. That's the way our team are approaching that, because all of us know you're as good as your weakest link. Right? You can be good in marketing and sales, but your fulfillment is falling apart. Nobody will come back to you. And then you're good in fulfillment, good in marketing and sales. Your financial is in tatters. You might not be able to get supply. You might not be able to pay wages. Nobody's going to work for you. And the other thing is that it's quite important, like Joseph mentioned. I mean, I've been, you know, my background, I was general manager of 1.4 billion companies. A lot of my connection know that. When I went into SME, I said, my goodness, you know, this is where we can add a lot of values, because a lot of them, they don't even have their accounts right. So George, you're talking about feasibility of where you are now. They don't even know where they are now, all right? And they say, well, you know, unless most probably they go to Ronel, I think will be in order. Most of them are chaotic, you know, few months behind, you haven't done the best, the account is in a mess and all that. This way, I think, you know, our team member like Joseph go in there, you know, clean up the account, make sure it's correct, and then obviously the future reporting is there. But that is one of the major challenges that really amazed me when I, you know, started to get involved in SME. Basically, it's a bit unfortunate, you know, some of them growing reasonably big, but traditionally they started very small, and then maybe a family member doing the bookkeeping. You think about it, the family member, poor person, like, you know, don't have any knowledge and just keep doing it the way he or she thinks it should be done, and absolute mess. So that is really a good comment, very good. And we actually still have everybody with us at the moment. I think we got a few more questions here. If any of the panel want to make any comment regarding our discussion so far, please jump in and raise your hand. Otherwise, raise your hand. Otherwise, I will ask a few more questions. Okay, so this is a quite topical. I sort of leave this question to the last because most probably it's a big impact and could be quite a bit of discussion. So one of our challenges now with the technology and all that is a good Internet of Things and all that concept, but the challenges is cyber security. As all of us know, you know, a lot of white collar crimes and, you know, so many things out there, whether through mobile phone messages or, you know, smart devices, email, all sort of thing. People ring you up left, right, and center, just try to scam you. So Milind, you're a technological expert in this panel. What is your thought about cybersecurity?
Yeah, cybersecurity actually right now, cyber attacks are going and growing a lot. And one of the things, and 3 days back, actually, there was a report from Small Business Australia that 40% of small business, once they get attacked, they cannot start, they close their business. And that is like quite big number of businesses which are going out of business.
Yeah.
So the main difference happens is for the big companies who have got a big budget, they got an IT department, they normally have at least something in place. So when their hackers are coming up, it's very difficult for them to go for it. So right now what we are seeing in the market is the people are targeting these small, very small micro businesses because there is not much thing which is available. So I would I normally highly recommend people to initially, if you got some insurance, make sure that you got a cyber insurance with that, because 100%. If suppose your data is encrypted, it might take $30,000 to $40,000 just to unencrypt that data. Many times the people do not have a backup as well. So these are small things which people can make use of to be secure. But yes, cyber part of it, there might be things where they might need to have a training to their staff, what need to be done. These are all small things which if they can take care of, that might be useful to protect their business from the cyber attack.
Yes. Any comment from the floor about cyber security? I think one thing that I have noticed is that it's actually quite a challenge. Like a lot of us now getting very nervous when you get an email or get a call or, you know, text messages, whether they are real or not real, right? And itself because we are not an expert, right? And it's actually impeding the real messages from people who want to connect with us and you know, talk business from that perspective. So I think the downside is, you know, even myself, like, you know, sometimes I see these new emails, you know, they say inquiry. I say, is it real inquiry or not? I'm not too sure. And then obviously under current circumstances, we actually had a lot of inquiries coming through, whether it's through phone and all that, virtually all new to us. One of the challenges that if they are current clients and people we already know through our, you know, chambers connection, networking connection, we feel reasonably comfortable. But suddenly we got bombarded with all this new thing. It could be real because businesses are struggling. They need help. They need to review their strategy and all that. But, you know, I think, you know, I don't know what is the solution is that we actually quite cautious, you know, and especially the one with weird email addresses. Like we say, well, I'm not sure what it is, like you know, where do they come from? And we actually rather reluctant to respond to that. Is there any comment or suggestion, you know, what is the best way to manage this sort of situation? I'm 100% sure I'm not alone, okay? George.
So Eric, to Melin's point, I'm aware of a small veterinary surgeon whose computer system was hacked and the information was encrypted. What that meant was she could not tell people, with many of those with their pets that were suffering serious illnesses and needed constant medicines and that, she couldn't tell them what the family dog needed to have next week or whatever. That lady ended up spending $15,000 to get that information back, because if she couldn't, that business would have been wiped out. She didn't have the 15,000, she had to borrow that. But what Melin's saying is quite true. A couple of things that I suggest to people. I get, and a lot of us would be in this situation now. You're connected to ASIC and you're connected to the tax department and all other sort of government departments. And you get these emails where you've got to contact them about this, that, or the other. If I get an email that says that I've got to click on a link to go somewhere, I actually go and type the link in to see if that comes up and what happens with it. Because when you click on the link that they send you, it can take you and away you go. But if you go to the ASIC site or you go to the tax site, you should be able to find that same link come up. If it doesn't come up, I ain't doing it. I got an email from the tax department 4 months ago. The only problem was they spelled my name wrong, they had the address wrong, and they had the company wrong. I didn't even bother checking the link. I knew who I actually was. But yeah, you got to look for detail, but I never click on links. And all these things that come through to your phone now about your parcel being delivered and all of that, I will go anywhere but where they tell me to click.
100%. Jason, were you going to say something?
Yeah, one thing you can do with new inquiries, and we often get them in the legal profession, it's been rife with a lot of phishing emails, people trying to hack, legal professionals. It's important to look at the email address, hover over, look at the actual address and see what it actually says. It might say the name of someone, but when you look at the email address, it's at Gmail, at Hotmail, or it's routed through another email address. The other thing you need to look at is the reply to. Where is that email going if you reply? Those two things can be indicators that things might be amiss. Like you mentioned, one of the things that businesses get are new inquiries. And what I often will do with any type of new inquiry is invite them to give me a contact number. So there's been evidence and cases of emails going out to practitioners saying, look, I've got this type of matter, and they just want to liaise with you via email. Okay. Or they might say, click this document or link to download a PDF. You never really do that. I always invite someone that would like to connect with me in an official capacity to provide me with their phone number. Then you can try and connect with them. If they're not willing to give you a phone number, it's probably an indication that something might be amiss. Because at least if you can contact them on the phone, you can arrange a face-to-face meeting with them or something of the like, a Zoom meeting, prove that they are who they are saying they are, and then you can start the relationship on a good note. If they're saying, look, I can't give you a mobile number, they might be in Nigeria or somewhere like that. Okay.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Yep.
On an oil rig selling it for their uncle or aunt.
Or you've come across some type of inheritance that you might be lucky enough to receive.
100%. I think most probably we should wrap it up in the next 5 minutes or so. So any of you want to make any comment about the topic today and the discussion today? Now is the time.
I think I just want to generally say something to everyone really, really quickly. To what George and Joseph said, mindset. Everyone's got to just stay positive. and be proactive with what you're thinking. You know, don't just sit there and use your whole day worrying and not taking action. I think that's very important. Mindset is extremely important. One of the ones that stood out to me, George, you know, that last slide you had with all the obviously key figures in the world that we've come across. One that's always stood out to me was Michael Jordan. Always, everyone looks at Michael Jordan like he's the best basketball player of all time, and look at this and look at that. There's a stat out there, you can have a look at it. I'm not sure if anyone knows it, but he missed something like 1,200 free throws before he managed to hit whatever he needed to hit to be the man who he was. So obviously, you know, to everyone that's listening to this, to everyone in the panel room that is struggling, or if they are, just stay positive and be proactive with your actions. Don't just let it dwell you and dig you deeper and deeper into the hole.
Excellent. Milind?
Yeah, so from my point of view, actually, the 2 points which George and Joseph have mentioned about being nimble and agile, that is so much important in today's atmosphere or in today's world, because for the small business, small to medium enterprise, it is really, really good because they are small, they can change the direction as and how and the way they want. While for the bigger company, it becomes like it takes months or years before they can change the direction. So that being nimble and agile, I think those are really, really good points to pick up from today's session.
100%. I think as a leader nowadays, you know, if you want to sustain your business, you got to be able to make, you know, virtually instant decision without perfect information to move forward. Because if you don't make decision quickly, could be quite drastic. And I think you need to have certain communication process so you can communicate your decision to your team very effectively. And that's part and parcel of being agile and be able to make decision without fearing that it might not be right. Of course, some of the decision will not be right, but the cost of not making any decision is actually bigger. George, looks like you're ready to make comments there.
There was a, oops, I've lost everybody again. There was a comment in there and Pina has suggested that she'd like to respond to it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't decide to respond. I just was trying to type in, thank you for the great feedback, but it doesn't let you type in. So
well,
thank you,
right.
Trevor.
Now you can tell Trevor live.
Yeah, no, thank you, Trevor, for the great feedback.
Yeah, that's good. Yep, Trevor actually timed something there. And thanks for attending, Trevor. Much appreciated. We shall meet again. So
one of my takeouts from this is, Jason, you need to teach us a little bit more about when they put the thing in Q&A, what are we responding to and how do we react to it?
We'll do that offline.
That just shows you this is live.
Yeah.
All right, I think very good. It's getting rather late. I'm pretty sure hopefully all of us get something out of this, some key takeout. I always say, I think the main thing is with the key takeout, make sure you go away and do something about it. Otherwise, you know, the strategy and plan without action is basically pay no fruits. So all the best. And if you got any question that you want to ask us, I just share on the screen in terms of where you can go. You can contact us either through our website or email us at info@BGES.co, and our presenters and panelists would be happy to answer any further question. So thanks for attending again, and you have a nice day. And if you are in Sydney, enjoy the rest of the afternoon. It's actually, I can look up from my window there, nice and sunny. So enjoy the day and enjoy the week. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.